of the people who make our festival possible. Duns Playfest is a yearly 9-day festival at the beginning of May in Duns in Berwickshire that celebrates new writing and champions emerging artists. We're bringing brand new theatre to the borders. I'm your host, actor, writer and Duns Playfest trustee Jamie Mean, and in each episode I will be talking to one of the writers, volunteers, trustees, performers or crew members who help make Duns Playfest happen. So, without any further ado, let's go on with the show! Hello, today I am joined by our Chair of the Board of Trustees, Karen Thomas. Karen, thanks for joining me today.
You're very welcome.
Just to start off with, what sparked your passion for theatre?
Well, I'm really interested in culture anyway, but the very first experience I remember is being taken to the Panto by my dad. So we've got beautiful theatre up in Aberdeen, and I'm originally from Aberdeen. I think it's still there actually. I think it's actually been refurbished and all that. His Majesty's Theatre.
It's still there.
Yeah. And so that was my earliest experience, and I think for a lot of people, pantos like that gateway drug that gets you into theatre. There's something magical about it you can never quite forget. So, mind you, some people are terrified and never go back to theatre again.
That's true.
Yeah, so I say it was panto, and then I was lucky enough to be at my primary school used drama all the time. You know, for lots of reasons. I mean, why is drama good at school? Teamwork, self-expression, whatever. But I was really lucky. My school was really into it, so I was in a lot of little plays in primary school. So that was my earliest introduction, I think.
So then, how did your involvement in theatre begin?
Well, as I say, at school, I kind of hived off in another direction because I was musical. So I started off doing music at university. So most of my secondary school, I didn't get that involved unless it was like Oliver or a musical, in which case I would be involved in the music side of it.
Yeah.
So so I guess I kind of had a long break from theatre, focusing mainly on music and art. I mean, fine art. So I'm a painter. For many years, I wasn't that involved in theatre. But I did once do a panto. I did the music for a panto called Batman in Pantoland, which was written by a really good friend of mine, again in Aberdeen, and she got me into to direct the music. But mostly I was involved in theatre from the music side of things rather than actually acting. And there's a good reason for that, which is I can't remember lines to save my life, which is very odd because I can recite reams of poetry and I can remember music, but I cannot for the life of me remember lines.
It's quite strange.
It's really weird. I don't know. It's possibly a kind of stage fright, somebody told me, but I'm not really a nervous person. But maybe that's right enough. So, yeah.
So how did you become involved with Duns Playfest?
Well, how do I get involved first of all? I think it was just moving to Duns and I found out that it was here. So I've moved to Duns a couple of times, or the area anyway, starting off with Coldingham, because Coldingham had its own set of players, just called Coldingham Players. And again, I got involved with them in the music side because they didn't have a musical director. So when I moved over here, I got a bit more involved. First of all, props. Because I've been very interested in staging and set design and props. So that tends to be where you'll find me, is behind the stage doing the props. So, or the bunting, but I'm sure we'll come on to that.
Yes, there'll be much discussion of bunting later.
Yes, hopefully. I think it's just living in Duns and being involved with the Duns Players. And then one year, 2019, I think it was, John, who is, I'm not sure if he was then, but he is now the director of Duns Players. He had this idea to do a longer festival, and I think it just started off being like a long weekend, and then it kind of grew from there. So, and I've always just been involved sort of backstage and with the design and set design and stuff like that. The Players sent me to, when I say they sent me, they didn't make me go. They paid for me to go to the conservatoire and for this short sort of a long weekend course on set design. So I've been hanging around doing that. So when the opportunity came to be involved with the Playfest, it was basically the hall design that got me dragged in. I wasn't a trustee for a long time to begin with, and then of course there was COVID, so there wasn't a lot going on that I could get involved with directly because they were mainly just videoing during the lockdowns. But as soon as it started up again properly, I got involved with, mainly, as I say, with the design of the hall. And then gradually I became, I don't know how that happened actually. Anyway, so I just woke up one day and then I was chair.
Oh, that answers my next question. How did you become chair?
I think I didn't.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. No, it's I was acting chair for a very long time. I think our last chair got a job somewhere else and left, and so we were left with nobody, and we couldn't think of anybody directly. And I was always very keen that the chair should be somebody well connected to sort of the wider theatre world. So that we could form links with, maybe theatre companies in Edinburgh or whatever.
Yeah.
But that person did not present themselves. So mainly just to chair meetings, I became acting chair. And then, of course, everybody got used to me just hanging around. So I think eventually I am now properly chair. But if anybody wants the job, I'm very happy to step aside because I need to focus on my bunting.
Of course. Yeah, if there's anyone who might like to chair.
Yes, preferably somebody with lots of money and very good theatre connections.
Yes, and someone who can make really good cake as well. That's
really
really
of course,
essential.
don't forget the cake. Yes. Yeah, you won't get people to meetings if you don't have cake. Yeah.
In what ways have you seen the festival grow since its inception back in 2019?
It's been phenomenal. It's just grown like topsy. I mean, as I say, it was a very small sort of 3-4 day event to begin with, and it was almost all Duns players and homegrown stuff. But the turning point was employing Sarah Best as a producer, and she has just been phenomenal. I mean, she has completely expanded this thing. It's huge now, so it's great. And I mean, and we're way, we've got theatre groups coming both sides of the borders from Edinburgh. We're always looking to expand that as well. And it's really just been quite phenomenal, the difference that she'd made, because she came with all these connections and whatnot that she had already. We've also developed a lot more of music as well. We didn't really have that to begin with, but now we have a lot of music. Because if you think about it, music's just another form of storytelling.
It is.
So which plays are. So so we've given a lot of people the opportunity to bring their own songs to the stage here, the cabaret stage usually. So it's huge now. Yeah.
How would you describe Duns Playfest to somebody who has never been before?
Well, really, I would start saying that the bunting is just to be seen, to be believed. That's it, really. Is there anything else? Yeah, no, I jest. It's an extravaganza. We have this large drill hall, which is transformed into this theatre wonderland. And for 9 days, we have all sorts of, the basis of it is new writing. So we attract, or new performances, we're not that rigid. But it's really to try and encourage people to write their own material, and we give it a nudge and a heave over the line onto the stage kind of thing. So yes, that's it, but it has really, really grown, and it's been incredible, the participation we've had. People are so keen to get their own material on stage, so it's great to give them a voice, and and great to have the space to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What have been the biggest challenges that you've faced in bringing the festival to fruition each year?
Oh God, this is so boring, but I have to say it's money. It's trying to get funding. And in the early days, I don't think we had any funding. I think well, that's not true, because I think the wind farms have always been very generous. So we got very small pots of money, which were fine when it was a smaller show altogether, a smaller production. But yeah, that is the single most grinding thing, because we want to keep our prices down so that local people can afford to come, will be encouraged to come. Because if you think about it, a bottle of wine, you can sit at home with your Netflix and a bottle of wine for what, £5-6. Of an evening. So if it's going to be really expensive at the moment in the middle of this cost of living crisis, we're just not going to get people in.
Yeah.
So trying to get the funding to keep it affordable, and also to pay the actors something like at least minimum wage. We need to be able to pay them a decent wage, because it's a job like any other.
Absolutely.
And although we use the Duns players, who are always very grateful to put stuff on for free, we can't do that with touring companies. They need they're professional and need to be paid something if it's only expenses. But usually we try and pay them. So that's the biggest grind all the time, is trying to secure funding. We've been really lucky with Creative Scotland, having recognised just what a fabulous thing this festival is, But that's never secure, you know. I mean, I think across the board, theatre companies, etc., are having their funding cut.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you can't rely on that. You've constantly got to be looking for other sources of funding. And there's lots and lots of organisations, not like us, nobody's like us, but, you know, all chasing an ever decreasing pot of money. So that is the thing that keeps everybody awake at night. Is it going on next year?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, sometimes it can be that close
Yeah.
to the wire. If you don't get the funding, you just can't do it.
Exactly.
You know? So, yeah.
On the flip side, what have been some of the highlights of being involved with Duns Playfest for you?
I think being in charge of the you know, a fabulous bunting team, you know. I can't stress how important, no bunting, no festival. But yeah, I really enjoy getting the place ready and making it look absolutely magical, because it's a fairly drab, empty, it's a drill hall, that's what it was designed for, it's not a theatre. But we've got amazing technicians, we've got amazing volunteers who have, you know, learnt so much on the job. That they really are professional standard, you know. So we create a large stage and then a cabaret stage. So we've got two separate spaces, and a lot of bunting, you know, which just really sets it off. But I'm joking about the bunting, but we do have workshops where people come along and do some. So they're learning a skill. They're not learning how to make bunting as such, but we print all our logos on the bunting using lino cut or whatever. So that's always a great joy. Is that the day that everybody comes along and we do lino cut? They learn lino cut,
Yes.
and we get it ready. So yeah, I think that's the most exciting part for me. I do like the theatre as well. I'd like to add that there is theatre going on.
Just that small thing. That's just a small
behind
part
the
of...
bunting, there is some amazing theatre going on. I mean, we have had some fabulous shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and it feels really good to let you know, new graduates of like Napier and Queen Margaret University drama graduates write shows and bring them here. You know, and it's great that they can get their stuff. Show, you know, for a fraction of the cost. Well, it doesn't really cost anything. We pay them. You know, that it would to try and get. It's really difficult. It must be a lonely business, like writing a play. I've never written a play, but I imagine, you know, lots of people are sitting in their garrets writing plays, and they never see the light of day. And that, for me, the most exciting thing is after the bunting, obviously, is giving people the opportunity to get their plays on stage. And it just must be amazing. I mean, it's a bit like if you learn to play an instrument and you're only ever going to do it in your bedroom, you know. It's just you want to get out there and play with other musicians, or, you know, whatever. So yeah, there are more pluses, but I think that's the main thing. Just the thought that you're giving people a chance to do this stuff that they've trained for, that they love, you know, and yeah. So.
We've touched on it a few times throughout this conversation. But Karen, am I correct in saying that you have a PhD in bunting? I
do have a PhD in bunting. I'm a professor of bunting.
Yes.
Actually. Yes. I think, as I say, I'm sorry I haven't got the images here, but I think our bunting is second to none.
Oh, yes.
And, you know. And the thing is, they can't take our bunting away from us, as somebody famously quoted on stage once. I can't remember who. I do actually remember who it was. But they shall never take our bunting.
No.
No. That's the one thing that they can't take away from us.
Yeah. And it's of utmost importance to the
festival
itself.
I mean, we're not just talking bunting, you know, it's this quality bunting. You know, I think people come to see the bunting as much as they come to see the shows, to be honest. I mean, I think they would pay £10 to see the bunting.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
Our tagline is bringing brand new bunting to the... Our tagline is bringing brand new theatre to the borders. Why is Duns Playfest important to the local community?
Well, you know, it's kind of obvious if you think about it, but this town here of Duns is very badly served by transport. Obviously, it's kind of a forgotten corner of Berwickshire for funding and for everything. It's often missed out, and this festival really puts it on the map, and it gives the local people an opportunity to come and see quality theatre, and also rubbish theatre. I jest, but sometimes, you know, there must be a huge pleasure in coming to see people you know, whether they're accountants or in everyday walks of life, prancing about on stage, you know, and it really brings the community together. And that's really, I mean, apart from my PhD in bunting, I did community education at Edinburgh University many years ago. And I think there's a big difference between between then and now, which is communities are becoming increasingly fragmented. And I don't want to be casting up Netflix, because there are good things about Netflix, but it's very easy just to sit in your own little box, watching the telly or watching something on telly, and there's nothing like that experience of live theatre.
Yes.
It's much more edgy, much more dangerous. Things can go wrong.
And
you're sat there watching people, and there's this other thing about allowing people to get on stage and take a massive risk. That you might forget your lines. Oh, do forget the lines.
Yes.
You might forget your lines. You might completely fluff it, and yet people get out there and do it anyway. So I just think as a community event for this community, it's amazing. But for the audience, the community that is the audience, it's just there are dwindling opportunities, especially around here, to see live theatre, and also anywhere else that you go, it's becoming more and more expensive. And as I said, one of our core missions is to try and keep the costs down so that people can come and see it. Because to be honest, if you're struggling to pay your mortgage or whatever, paying £30 to come and see a show in the theatre is just not an option. It's not going to happen, So it's funny, actually, you should say that. I read this article just yesterday in The Guardian, written by a lady who got divorced, dissolved her business, started a new job, moved house, and her dad died all in the same year. And she says, as my life fell off a cliff, so did my eyesight, so that by 2015, my field of vision had decreased to only 5 to 10 degrees. So you might think that, somebody with as poor vision as that was completely, theatre just wasn't on the radar. She couldn't possibly engage with that. However, she went to see a production of the Lehman trilogy, which was about the 2008 financial crash, a live production. And she said there was total immersion with no barriers, which felt freeing. The feeling was so visceral, I didn't even realise it at the time. I was simply back to being me as I used to be. It was only afterwards that I realised how completely absorbed I had been. So that's the thing, you see, about coming to theatre. We don't know when we're on the stage doing stuff, and acting, pretending to be someone else, what each individual member of the audience is getting from that performance. There might be someone there sitting there severely visually impaired, or with special educational needs, and everybody will take their own thing from that experience of live theatre. And I'm not saying that films on the telly or recorded, but there's something about that live experience. The audience is part of the show, and the show is part of the audience.
Yes.
It's
that connection.
Exactly. It's a massively connecting thing that you will not get from sitting watching a screen. So yeah. So I forgot what the question now. I hope that was relevant.
Yes. How is Duns Playfest important to the wider Scottish theatre community?
Well, I don't think there's anything like this anywhere in Scotland. I'd heard that up in Inverness they'd started something similar, which is great. I mean, if we could have playfests springing up all over the country, in this model, and it became more normal for people to be holding festivals of drama, of new writing. But the thing is, more and more theatre companies are, even the big theatre companies in London are more and more revamping old shows and not taking risks with new writers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's terribly important that we take risks with new writers, that we encourage people in their creativity. And I just think, and the other thing is, they'll only put on shows where the actors are famous and they're guaranteed to draw in people. I mean, fair enough, it's become phenomenally expensive, even in the West End, where tickets are so expensive and you've got a large audience that can afford to pay that. It has become phenomenally expensive. But for me, the thing about Playfest is that element of risk. Is your audience going to like it? We don't know, but that's not why we're here.
Yeah.
We're not here to make a massive profit.
No.
We're here to present new writing to new audiences, so maybe hopefully getting in people that don't traditionally go to theatre.
Yeah.
I think this model could be adopted by towns all over. This is a tiny town. We've got 3,000 of a population.
Yeah, something like that.
So I mean, this is something, and it's a massively bonding thing. The community all come in, they all volunteer, they all help, and I think this is a model that could really be spread across Scotland quite easily.
Absolutely.
But then we don't want to be competing with anybody else for funding.
That's another good point.
Exactly.
On a personal level, why is theatre important to you?
I think, for a lot of the reasons that I've said already, it's being part of a community. And as I say, I don't even perform on stage. Well, that's not entirely true. If you give me a script and it's okay to read off the script,
Yes.
I can perform on stage.
Paul
but-
Temple, for example.
Indeed, yes. I couldn't even remember the name of the character, let alone the lines that she said, but we eventually worked it out. But yes, I think for me it's really important because of that community thing. As I say, I've got a background in community education, which is no longer a thing because of funding. And there's another thing that I don't know if I mentioned this. When I was doing my postgrad in community education, one of my placements was a thing called English through Drama. And it was so there were lots of people from other countries who came over and did this. I think they did a couple of months, but it wasn't just that. It was people who, English speakers of other languages or something like that. English for speakers, TESOL, it was called, Teaching English for Speakers of Other Languages, and we had refugees, and it was just a fantastic way of bonding with people. So we had people from all over. I mean, they were mainly European, I think, but there were people from further afield, and it was just a fantastic way of bonding and an amazing way of learning the language, because they had to learn it, and they had to know the meaning so that they could convey the meaning through acting. So it's fantastic, the uses of drama. I mean, you can teach people lots of things through drama. You can teach them about health. You can teach them, and we do. We always have a platform for people who write about issues such as mental health and well-being and stuff like that. And and the audiences learn from the actors, and the actors learn from the audience. So I think that's all I have to say about that. What was that?
I think you've answered
Yeah,
that.
good.
Perfect.
I shouldn't really be looking at your questions.
I know. I think that's everything. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Thanks. So
You're
much
very
for-
welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you to my guest, Bunting Queen Karen Thomas, and as ever, to our amazing festival producer Sarah Best, and our brilliant board of trustees, especially Eric and Ramsey for all their help with recording. That's a wrap for another episode. Make sure to subscribe to the Duns Playfest podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can catch our video podcast if you'd like to see our faces. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok at Duns Playfest, and check out our website www.dunsplayfest.org.uk. All the links are in the show notes. If you liked this episode, please tell your friends, and if you didn't, then don't. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with more episodes of the Duns Playfest podcast, recorded live in front of an audience at Duns Playfest 2026. See you at the festival!